All right. Thank you for coming to joining the. Thank you for joining the Zoom call today, Andrea. And we are going to start.
Awesome.
And it's great to connect with you. I feel like, because we know each other pretty well, and thanks for your support anyway. The first question would be, like, why do you want to have children?
Okay, first of all, thank you very much, Lynn, for inviting me for this conversation. And let's let me answer that question. Why do you want to have children? So I have to think back many years now what it was, why I wanted children. And I think for me, it was that I wanted something that connected me even more with my partner. I think that was the reason why I wanted a child back then. I was scared because even though I was already 26 years old when we decided to stop, what do you call it? Birth prevention. And immediately after I stopped taking the pill, I actually fell pregnant. And what I know now is I haven't prepared myself enough for that moment, because I thought, stopping the birth prevention doesn't mean I'm getting pregnant straight away. And I thought I had a few months to get used to the idea of becoming a mom, but no, bang, I was pregnant immediately. And I remember that it was quite a bit of a shock because I didn't expect it so quickly. And I know the moment when I started to show, or not even yet, but I might have been in my 3rd month, but I was standing in front of the mirror naked, looking at my body, thinking, remember this body because it won't look the same ever again. I remember that moment. It was quite significant. Yes. So I think, to come back to your question, it was to be even more connected to my partner.
Yeah, because this is really interesting. Most of the women, I think, will feel like have connection or will be another big step, improve their relationship. You have children, but have you really think about, like, your partner have the same thought at the time?
So my partner had already a daughter of 9 years with his first wife. So he had already been a father, and he has seen me how I was with his daughter, and I think he liked the idea of me being a mother because I was very caring, playful with his daughter. So it was not that both of us were going to be parents for the first time. It was only me. Yes, he knew what was coming, whereas I didn't, because I feel I was not really prepared to have a child. My mom never talked about it. Nobody really prepared me for the fact that having a child actually changes the relationship.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. That's why I will try to ask this question, why? Because we need to, I mean, most of the, how can I say, there's a reason behind it, right? And if we reconnect the why, then we know why we have this kind of result right now. Does it make sense? Oh, Andrea, can you unmute yourself? I think you mute yourself.
Yes, I'm muted because I can hear my children in the background. I hope they don't interrupt too much.
Oh, no, not at all. Mm.
Because I have no door to close. It's all open. I just wish that somebody had a conversation with me before having a child and telling me about the sleepless nights, the attention the child needs. I was just not ready. I didn't do the homework to become a mom.
Yeah. That's a good one, because most of our women need to prepare a little bit homework, like what you said just now, and start that kind of conversation before they have children.
So what I did is I was reading books about babies, how to know how to be a good mom. I did that part, but I was not aware of how it would affect our relationship. Not at all. And of course, it hit me even harder because my daughter was sick and she needed a lot of attention. And I spent a lot of time in hospital with her. It was a lot of worries. So my life had changed 180 degrees, really.
Yeah, that was
all
tough.
The focus was on my child. There was no focus on my partner, on our relationship. All the focus was on our baby.
You kind of answered my next question.
Yeah, okay.
how was your relationship with partner at that time? Yeah, because like you said, it's totally changed. But do people have the awareness like this?
I don't know how it is nowadays. We're talking 30 years ago. There was no awareness at all. I'm 100% sure about that. And within my family, there wasn't either. So I had conversations with my daughter as she was growing up, preparing her, letting her know that with a child, the relationship is changing. And I didn't paint a bad picture, but I was very raw in telling her that the focus really changes from your partner to your child, and in that you have to be careful not to deprive your partner too much, and vice versa. I mean, for men, I guess they still focus on the woman, because I had a partner who did not do any nappy changes, who did not wake up at night when the baby was crying. He was not involved in that at all. So he would still be focusing on me the way maybe it was before, but I didn't focus on him because my focus was 100% my sick child. And I know now that was a big mistake.
Yeah, it's a good reflection on it, Yeah, then we can learn from there. And everybody, I mean, it would be a good lesson to hear from others, from like you already have the journey. Then when we start our own journey, then we try to avoid this kind of mistakes. Communication is really important, because when you have the baby, it's not just mom's responsibility. It can be a daddy's responsibility too.
Yes, and I do believe that nowadays it is more common that both parents are involved more in caring for the child. I see that with my daughter and my son-in-law. They are, when he's at home, because he works away, but the week he's at home, he cares for the baby just as much as my daughter does, which my husband did not do at all. My husband is from the old conservative upbringing, where the woman has to look after the child. The woman is doing the cooking, the woman is doing the cleaning, and all of that. And I allowed him to do that to me. I didn't have boundaries enough, or maybe not at all. That was what I was lacking in my upbringing. So I think it's very important to talk to children about that already.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because nobody told me. And because I had this perfectionist controlling mother, I tended to do as I was told, because I knew I had peace within my family if I obeyed. And so I think I took that on in my relationship. He wanted me to be that way, so again I obeyed, and I did everything. What, you know, from looking after the child, as the children were growing up, driving them around, taking them to dance lessons or soccer games or whatever. He would not even go and watch his own children. So he was really extreme.
Yeah. I mean,
and that's how the gap between us got bigger and bigger, because I did not want to be the only one anymore. You can only do that for a certain time, but then you're wearing yourself out.
Yeah.
And I fell totally into the identity of a mother, of a wife, and housewife. That was my life.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I mean, yeah, most of women need that inside thinking, like if you really want to start to have children, and then learn how to communicate with partner is quite important.
Yes, and I think even in the beginning of the relationship, even if there are no children involved yet, it is very important for both partners to lay out the rules. What they expect from each other, what they're prepared to do, what they're not prepared to do. And I think the best is not even only to talk about it, but maybe even write it down, you know, make it a game.
Good idea.
One night, sit down and just on one piece of paper write what you expect, on the other piece of paper write what you don't not allow, but what would be breaking your boundaries, and really be very raw and honest. Yeah. I would do that if I was starting a relationship again. I would be very upfront.
That's a really good idea.
Yeah, and sorry to interrupt you, but I've done it actually in my last relationship. So after being separated from the father of my children, which was 15 years ago, I had various relationships, and one relationship of 7 years where I did lay out the rules in the beginning. And one of the rules was that I'm not going to get married ever again. Yeah. And I was very clear about that. So we referred to each other as friends with benefits. Okay. But then I think 5 years into the relationship, he proposed to me. And for me, that was such a breach of my boundaries that I told him, you know, that's against the rules that we have laid out in the beginning, and I haven't changed my mind, because I would mention it over and over again. It was not that I made the rule up in the beginning, but we were talking about it all the time, also with my children, you know, in groups of people. And then he proposes to me. So on that night, I broke the relationship up. I said, no, sorry, I can't do this. And so there were 2 months of us not communicating at all. That was, or maybe 3 months. It was September, and then at Christmas time or before Christmas, we started to talk again, and we sort of got back together, but the relationship was never the same. And a year later, it ended altogether.
I feel sorry about that.
No, I don't, because he didn't play along.
Yeah, you're right. Because when you mentioned like you already set up the rules and enough communication before, but the guy still have have to propose to you. I was like, oh, interesting. That's why, because you come up this story to us, and then I feel like, do we have any flexibility? Like changeable flexibility in our relationship? Because I feel like interesting thing, because before marriage, like we are still boyfriend and girlfriend, we see the we because fall in love each other's, and in our eyes just love even the person, whatever they did, just love, then cover their faults, right?
Yeah, we
and
ignore,
then when you jump into marriage,
yeah,
jump into marriage will be totally different. Your expectation just like, oh my god, this person just changed. Why this person do this thing and that thing, you know?
Yes.
Yeah. And then
when in reality they didn't change. They were like that all along, but we chose to close our eyes and not see it, because we're thinking, oh my god, I love him so much, I can deal with anything. I was like that too.
Yeah, that's why I feel like, because I'm a pretty flexible person, I feel like, oh, if my feeling is like the fall in love feeling, going up, even at the beginning, I set this certain route, and then I set this kind of boundary, but because I love him so much, my boundary would be like, the boundary line will be a bit lower, lower, until the person really hurt me, then I realized that.
It depends. So in my first relationship, my marriage, I had no boundaries at all. So I couldn't even say that I lowered the boundaries, because there were none at all. I know that now. I didn't know it at the time.
Oh yeah.
Because I was so much in love. I saw the signs. I saw that he was a jealous person. I saw that he was very dominant. But I didn't mind, because I was so much in love. And actually, I told myself that no matter what happens, I can deal with it.
Yeah. Like at that kind of attitude, yes.
Yeah. And also to that extent that I was even, I think, attracting challenges, because of saying whatever challenge comes my way, I can deal with it. So if I overcame a challenge, I knew I could do it, and I sort of unconsciously, I think I expected another challenge to arise anyway. So rather than saying there won't be any challenges anymore, we are going to be more and more harmonious. We're going to talk about everything. I did the opposite. I attracted even more challenges and more difficulties, and my whole marriage was like one obstacle after the other, really.
Oh, it's quite interesting.
I did that myself.
Yeah, you mentioned that because like if you haven't deal enough or really deal with that problem, and then universe just keep flowing to the same problem to you again and again and again. Yeah.
Yes. And then with my second partner, I had learned already about boundaries, and I was very clear and very that boundary is just not a flexible boundary for me. It is what it is. And when he proposed to me, it was a massive breach of that boundary. Because I did not only talk about that right in the beginning of our relationship, but it came up over and over again throughout our relationship. So it was not that I said it in the beginning and then never mentioned it again. It wasn't like that. And everybody knew about that. Our friends knew that I didn't want to get married.
Yeah, it's good to clear your, how can I say, what clear your boundary, clear, make it clear.
Be clear about your boundaries. And of course, there are boundaries that are flexible and where you can talk about it.
Yeah.
Definitely. It's just, for me, the fact of getting married, maybe it is a limiting belief somehow, but when I was in the courtroom to get divorced, and the judge in front of me had the power to decide over my life whether I may be divorced or not, I thought, what the hell? Never again I'm outsourcing my power in such a way. Never again. And that's why marriage is not a thing for me. Living together, yeah, okay, but not getting married.
Yeah, right. And the next question would be like just come up from my mind, because how did all this affect your children?
Do you mean the breakup
The breakup
with their father?
Mm.
So, okay. I had already left my husband when my daughter was 4 years old. Very little, because I could not stand the way he was treating me anymore. And also his jealousy, where I knew I was a very trustworthy person. And I know also now that that came from my dad, because my dad did not trust me. And so my husband now didn't trust me again. He did not trust me again. And I'm a very honest person. So that was a big hurt to me. And there were various things happening already. So when my daughter was 4 years old, I left him. And I lived on my own for a year. I had a full-time job. My daughter was in kindergarten half a day, and the other half my parents looked after her. I had an apartment, and her dad would come, I think every fortnight on the weekend to have time with her. And you know, he seemed to have changed. He was really nice. He seemed to be like in the beginning of our relationship. And because I come from a very conservative background, having a child growing up from divorced parents was not really something I wanted for my child. And so a year after being on my own, I decided to go back with him, to live with him again. And of course, nothing had changed. I mean, we had maybe a good time for another 5-6 months, but then the same problem started to happen again. And in the meantime, I was pregnant with my son, because I said, okay, let's have another child. And also we planned on migrating to Australia. We had all the visa process and everything done in that time, because I thought, okay, if we have problems, maybe if I move away from my family, because he was from an Arabic country, so Austria was not his home country either. So I thought, okay, if I'm moving somewhere else where I'm not at home, which is not my home country, then maybe we get on better, because we are sort of in the same boat, not living in our home country, not having any family. And of course, I made it just harder for me, because now I didn't have any support, because I didn't know anybody in Australia. We had to set up a business. I had nobody to look after my children, who were 6.5 and 8 months at the time. He did not speak English. So I had to drag my baby to business brokers, to banks, to real estate agents, and I had to translate. Then in the afternoon, when my daughter came home from school, I had to do homework with her, which took like 2 hours, because she didn't speak English. And I had to translate everything into German and then back to English so that she could do her homework. It was huge. So I didn't make anything better for myself.
That was a big decision to change your life as well when you moved to Australia. And have you really considered, like, when you have the second children, before you're going to have the second child, do you really think about, like, why do I need a second one?
I think it was because I came back to him, and I had those rosy glasses on again, thinking, oh, everything is fine, we're a family again, let's have another child, because I always wanted 2 children.
I see.
And we had a girl, and so we said, let's try again, maybe we have a son. And we did have a son. So I'm very grateful that I had one gender each.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tick the box.
Yes, exactly. And yeah, I just had the rose-colored glasses on again, looking at our relationship in the way that we belong together, we love each other, we have one child already. Let's make it a family with 2 children, because it's always nice to have 2 children for the children themselves. And that's what it was. I've always wanted 2 children, and I was not prepared to have another child earlier on, not only because of the difficulties in our relationship, but because of the fact that my daughter was sick, and I was just not prepared yet in case something was wrong with my son again, to go through hospitals and all that again.
Yeah. Right. Oh, it's a
I know.
So,
I made so many mistakes. Ladies, you can learn so much from me.
I want to say it's how can I say, that it's our journey. That's what we learn from our journey. That's why you are here to tell other mothers what kind of lesson do you have, and then what do you want to tell them.
Yes.
About, like, your lessons, and that they can reflect on themselves.
Absolutely. And to come back to your question, because I haven't answered that yet, how did it affect my children?
Oh, yeah.
So I know now that staying with their father affected my children more, especially my daughter, than if she had grown up without him. Or with him, not without him, because even if I had separated, he would still be part of her life, but he would have been different, because he would have seen her only every now and then, and he would have been nice. And I think, whereas as she was growing up, he treated her terribly. As she was growing into a woman, he said terrible things to her.
Yeah.
Terrible things. Yes. And so that affected her even more than leaving him.
Yeah, that's why it would be a topic to talk about, like, if I mean, so how can you deal with this with your children, like, because the father affect the children a lot about. I'm not sure what kind of language he used for the child, for your daughter. Then what do you do? What do you do for your daughter to
support? So my advice really is, and I have talked to clients about that, is it's better to have an abrupt heartache, which means, the heartache when you're leaving their father, rather than having a heartache that never ends. In the sense of staying with him, and they get treated the wrong way over and over and over again.
Yeah.
It made a big imprint on my daughter, because I only left her father when she was 16 years old. And a lot of damage had been done by then.
Yeah, right.
Not so much for my son. I mean, yes, for my son as well, but in the reverse way, because he was always the preferred child. He couldn't do anything wrong. He would never get in trouble with his dad. And so he's 23 today. What he is, and he lives with his dad. He lived with me in the beginning, but then when I had this other partner of 7 years, my son decided he didn't want to accept my new partner. He wanted to live with his dad. And that was not good for him, living with his dad, because his father handed him everything on a silver platter. I mean, he's a beautiful boy, a beautiful young man. He's very good in his job. He's doing an electrician apprenticeship, which he's going to finish this year.
Yep.
He gets praised from his bosses. He knows how to handle money. He's very responsible. He doesn't drink, doesn't do drugs, anything. So he's a very responsible young adult.
Yep.
But I had this conversation with him already. I said, if you behave that way, there's no way a woman is ever going to stay with you, because he is messy. He does not help his dad with the household, with the washing, with the cleaning, with nothing. And I said, this is not on in today's world, because women are not putting up with it. You will have trouble finding a girlfriend. So if he was growing up with me, then I would have taught him differently.
Yeah, interesting, this one.
Yeah, so he got the reverse influence, whereas my daughter was never good enough for his dad. My son could not do anything wrong. Total opposite.
It's quite interesting, this one, because I mean, when we grow up, become what we are, we'll be like influenced by our parents a lot. That means like at a young age, the parents can pass to our children better habits or better life habits, and how to handle, like become not a messy person, how to do housework as young as they can, you know. Yeah.
Yes. I had something at the tip of my tongue and now I forgot it. Oh dear. I wanted to say something. No, ask me the next question. It will come to me.
That's all right. This one will be like, how good of a parent do you think you are?
Oh, I know that I was not a good parent in the beginning when I was young. I did not teach my children boundaries in the beginning. Yes, I did, but the wrong way, the way I was taught by my mother, in a quite a strict way, maybe a controlling way. But then I think from when my children turned into teenagers, I consider myself being quite a good mom, but I had to learn it. I had to grow into it, because I remember how rebellious our daughter was, and I was still with her father then. And so for me, when I think of having a daughter who is starting to date, I always rather had her in my house with her boyfriend than her going elsewhere, because if they're in your house, you sort of you feel they're safe. Okay.
Yep.
Whereas her father was not allowing her to date anybody.
Oh, that's weird.
So of course, what happened? She did it secretly without us telling. And she would be gone without us knowing where she is. And at that time, because I was still with her dad, I couldn't do anything about it, because he was controlling everything. He was controlling us. And it didn't matter what I was saying, he would have the last word. So my daughter rebelled totally. And at that time, Facebook came out. I had no idea what Facebook was at the time. I didn't even have a mobile phone, I think. And I remember one night when she was gone, the neighbor boys who she was acquainted with told me that from Facebook they know that she was with such and such. Yeah. And so that was soon before I moved out. And then when I had moved out, she was so difficult that I really was worried that I was going to lose her, either to going down the wrong path, you know, getting involved with the wrong people. I mean, there's so much happening out there, and as a parent, you can't control it. And especially at that time, also with social media, which I didn't know anything about it. So I had no way of sort of knowing what she was up to. And that was the time when I turned things around. When I had fights with her and she said, I'm not coming home. No, you cannot make me stay at home. I would then say, okay, here is the door. Feel free to go. But also know that I'm always here to help you. If something happens, it doesn't matter what, I want you to ring me because I will always be here for you if you need me. And that was sort of the turning point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing that. Your story with your daughter is really touching at the end. Yeah, because you're right. If we don't really have a good connection or too strict to the child, I mean, some of the teenager problems, it's stuff from what they like their behavior. It starts from what the parents did to them.
Yes.
Yeah, and then that's why I feel like, if we try to avoid that teenagers problem, then we need to, like parents, need to adjust a little bit at the when they have when they have the kids at their young age, what kind of relationship they should build up with the children and connection to build with children as well.
Yes. And to come back to your question again, how did it affect my children? I think
that is answer. You already answered my question. This question will be, how good of a parents do you think are? But I feel like you drop, like, I mean, because that is the journey start. Maybe some of the parents feel, I don't feel like I'm a good parent. Literally, if you're working on it, you put effort on it, and you will. Yeah.
Yes.
Growing.
And the more you educate yourself as a parent, the better for everybody involved. I wish I came across coaching so much earlier in my life, because now I'm understanding patterns within my family that I have taken on and passed on to my children. And coming back to my daughter, I know now the time for me to leave her dad was really time to leave him, to save my daughter. Because from that moment onwards, I could change my parenting. And I was actually praying, because at one stage I didn't know what to do anymore. I was so scared she was doing the wrong thing. And I sent it out into the universe and said, please help me. I need your help now, because it's beyond my control. I put my child into your hands. Please keep her safe. I really did that. And I actually also wished for somebody to come into her life to give her the love that she needed. She was so much craving love because she didn't get that love from her father.
Yeah.
So I mean the love from a male. So I was praying for her to meet somebody to catch her because she was about to fall. And she met her now husband. She was only 16 years old when she met him.
Wow.
It was shortly after me moving out. And the reason why I'm saying is it was so good that I didn't live with my husband anymore at that time, because that young man she met was from Sydney. We live on the Gold Coast. He was from Sydney and was on the Gold Coast for a few days only as a lifeguard. And she asked me, can she introduce him to us? And because her dad and I had already separated, and her dad was trying to get us back at that time, he agreed to that, which under normal conditions, when I was still his wife, he would not have agreed. He would have thrown a tantrum and said, no, no way, she's not allowed to, blah, blah, blah. But because I was already gone and he wanted to make things work again, which I didn't, he agreed to meeting him. And then my daughter asked me, can he stay with us? And I said, okay, that's quite heavy for me now. I said, if your dad agrees that Bo is staying in my house when I'm watching you, then it's okay with me. And again, her father said yes. And she wanted to do everything right to win us back. And so she had him in my house, and he stayed with us in the end. They lived with me for years. It was amazing.
Yeah.
But I had to leave the marriage to save my children.
Yeah, it sounds like you set a safe boundary for you and for also for your children. That's why your husband won't cross it.
Yes.
Your ex-husband, sorry.
Ex-husband now, yes. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's quite, that's really interesting. I mean, really need to aware that, set up a safe boundary for yourself.
Yes, and this is where education comes in.
Exactly.
Because if you learn how to set boundaries already very early on in your relationship, then you create already a safe environment for your children.
Exactly, yes. So true, so true. So that would be a great tips for at the end of that.
Yes.
Yeah, that is so really one good tips. Do you have another, like I want to end up like at the end, maybe can you advise like 3 tips for the parents? What can they?
Yes, for parents. So always be honest with your children. Do not belittle your children. They are a lot wiser than you think. So never treat them as if they were little people not understanding what was going on. Because they do know. So always treat them. I'm not saying treat them as an equal, because of course they are your children, but treat them with respect.
Yeah, so true.
And don't try to hide anything from them either. Be very honest and upfront with them about what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. This is so true, this one.
Yeah. And also, so when difficulties between the parents arise, never speak bad about the other parent. Never. Don't defend them either, but just say how it is.
Yeah,
just
right.
say that you have different opinions, and the reason for that is because your dad was brought up in this way and I was brought up that way. Just be honest about how things were or are.
Yeah, don't put the anger on. Yeah, if you put all the angry emotion in it, or hate emotion in it, your kids kind of like, oh, I hate my father, I don't like it.
Oh,
that would be worse. Yeah,
I have seen that with my sister.
Oh,
she has been talking bad about their children's father. And it's not what you want to do, because what you're doing is you're confusing your child. Because the father is their parent and you as the mother are their parent.
Yeah.
You should never make the other one bad in front of your children.
Exactly.
It has nothing to do with the children. It has to stay between the parents.
Yeah, right. Yes, yes. This one is a wow, golden nugget.
Oh yes, yes, absolutely. Yes. And I must say I have always lived by that. I've never made their dad look bad. I've always said to them that we don't agree, and it's because of our different upbringing. Even though I was not a coach at the time, but that was always clear to me. I didn't ever want him to stand out as the bad guy.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing. You did a good job of that. That's why.
Yeah, that must have been
keep
instinct, I think. Yeah, because I did not learn that from my parents. That was the opposite.
But now we hear from you, we learn from you. That is a good sign, you know. I never learned this from my parents either, you know.
No. Yeah.
And then the last tips.
Another one. So the communication. Last tip. I think have faith. Have faith. Like, you know, when I was at a point where I didn't know how to handle my daughter, always have faith that there is a bigger power that is watching over them. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's mainly when it comes to teenagers, where you have to loosen the grip because you want them to make their own experiences. You have to let them go. But at the same time, you're so scared because you want to keep them safe. But they have to make their own experiences. That's so important. And that's where it's very good to have faith.
Yeah, great.
It helps you. It helps you to stay calm and not worry too much.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like a self-belief. A self-belief, like we can handle this kind of situation and trust.
Yes.
Like, how can I say, trust the universe always give you the best.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, trust the universe. I like that. Yes. And that's what I mean when I say faith. And you know, some people say it's God. I always said it's the universe. I'm more inclined now to say it's God, but I have been growing up in the Catholic Church, and I'm not a big friend of the Catholic Church. And that's why for a long time I referred to only the universe, whereas now I'm coming back to referring to God, which has nothing to do with Catholic Church for me. It's just God. He's the creator.
I mean, just we use different words. Like, as long as you have a belief, that belief is sort of like an energy. It's a good energy go inside. Like when you put good energy in, and also, when you put good energy out, also good energy come in too.
Yes.
Yeah, it's the same. It's two ways. Yeah.
It's like karma. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah.
I believe in that too. Absolutely. As long as you're doing everything from the bottom of your heart, then nothing can go wrong.
Exactly. Oh, so much love. Thank you so much.
You'll be looked after. Yeah.
I feel like so much love from you, Andrea. And this is really great session. Thank you so much. Share all the nuggets. Yeah, I think we can stop to share to recording.